Hey folks, welcome back to Max Nave Horsemanship and Baby Steps. Today's video might be a little bit short because, well, climate, it's hovering right around the freezing mark today, but we got rain, and well, that means freezing rain, and it means cold, and it's a little breezy. It's not pleasant. Horse probably doesn't care, but I do. And the raining thing, well, that kind of isn't good for my camera equipment either, so I'm not crazy about leaving it out terribly long to get wet, because it's already getting wet. Well, anyhow, today is the next day from the last video, and I'm going to pick up where we left off there. And we were doing a little desensitizing with her because we decided we were going to try working with her feet, and that didn't work well. So we decided to move on to something different, and well, it's one of those things you're going to have to do. There is a basic order to things, but sometimes you got to jump around a little bit depending on the situation. And well, that's kind of what we had to do. So I'm going to go back to showing you what we were doing when we left off, which if you're paying attention, you would have already seen that and noticed it. And then I'm going to show you what we did after we turned the camera off, because we did do a little bit more on the same theme. And well, you need to see this stuff because it kind of shows the progress you can make, and kind of is important. And I'm going to explain a few things on you know, why it's important and how it works and all this stuff. And you know, it might be useful information. Speaking of useful information, you know, I like watching other videos. That's how I've learned a lot of what I know, is, well, reading articles, watching videos, watching people in person, and spending time with the horses. And unfortunately, it has gotten to the point where I'm having a hard time finding videos to watch that could teach me something, because, well, it's not that I'm that smart, it's just I've started to realize that other guys really don't know that much. You know, and that's, you know, the more I learn, the more I realize how little I know, and I start seeing the holes in what other guys are doing and realize they really don't know that much either. So, you know, no matter how much you know, though, there's always somebody else that knows more than you. And I know there is. I know they're out there. I just haven't found them yet. And some of them, well, I know there's, I can think of at least one really good guy out there that really knows his stuff. But he doesn't do YouTube videos at all. You'd have to actually attend his clinics or pay for his DVDs or something like that, which I'm not really prepared to do. And, you know, it's just a lot of fuss for nothing, because everything I know right now that I'm sharing with you is something I've learned for free. It hasn't cost me anything. Well, not entirely. There was one guy I subscribed to for a while, just to pick up on a few things that he was doing. And it was helpful a little bit, and probably well worth the money because it didn't cost a whole lot for his videos. But that's about it. Anyhow, so, you know, no matter how much you learn, don't think you know much, because I don't care if I live to be 150, I'm not going to know nothing. At least not in the grand scheme of things, because there's just so much to know. Always remember that. There's always more you can learn, no matter how much you think you know. Because that is the most important thing I've learned, and not just with horses either, with anything. The more you learn, the more you realize how little you know. Anyhow, I'm going to throw a halter on her, and we'll pick up where we left off in the last one. Good girl. There we go. That's a good girl. See, we had this on before and you didn't mind. It didn't hurt you. So you should know by now that this thing doesn't hurt you any. Good girl. There we go. Good girl. Good girl. Good little horse. Welcome back again. Well, we got our halter on her, and we got our lunge whip. And like I said, today might be a relatively short video because conditions are not really good for her or me because, well, for those of you that understand this stuff in the colder climates, for those of you in the warm ones, you aren't going to have a clue, but a little rain on top of ice and snow, very, very slippery. Makes for very bad footing for both her and me. The risk of one of us getting hurt is actually pretty high. So I've got to be careful what I do so that that doesn't happen. So what we were doing is we were waving this thing all over the place, and well, we were even waving it over her. You know, she got a little concerned. We haven't done this since yesterday, so this is all new, but you can see it's right on her now, and it's like not a huge issue. So, you know, it's a little freaky to her though. You can tell, you know, it's got her concerned, but she's not doing horrible. You know, she's still moving around a little bit. Her eyes and ears and mouth and everything are still moving. So that's a good sign when you're doing stuff. If they just freeze up completely, that's a bad sign. I mentioned this before. But I want to show you one of the other things that we're doing aside from swinging this thing around and slapping the ground beside her and all this stuff. After the camera was off, we also took it a step further and started doing that. Now, you'll notice I did this a fair distance away from her, and her first reaction, yeah, her head really popped up on that one. Let's see what happens the next time we do it. She's still got concerned about it, but the more I do it, the less she reacts. And that's why we're doing it. And for those of you that don't realize, it's just an ordinary lunge whip I'm cracking here. It's not a bull whip or anything like that. But we could make a noise and a motion and everything else that could get her a little concerned. And these are just things you need to expose your horse to, because someday when you're riding along on the horse, which isn't going to happen for a long time yet on this one, but all these noises, well, what happens if there's a noise when your car, you know, when you're riding your horse and your car backfires or door slams or somebody's hammering a nail or whatever they're doing, you know, and there's a bang like that? Is your horse going to freak out and launch you into space? No, you don't want that. So this is one of those many things that you are going to get your horse used to. Now, I'm being very careful how far away I am, and as you can see, no reaction now. She's getting better, so I'm going to move a little closer to her. And you know, this is actually not too far away from her, and the crack takes place up in the air almost directly above her head. And she's not reacting too much to it. I'm not always getting a good crack out of it. It's wet and half frozen and who knows what. But it's making some noise, and it's doing its job. It's getting her concerned, and that's what we want. We don't want to push her over the edge. Remember that. I said, find the line, don't cross it. So this is what we're doing. And this is, you know, and your horse might react a whole lot more to this, because I do this a lot. I've done it with every horse I've worked with. And I kind of forget that a lot of people don't do stuff like this with their horse. And there was one day not too terribly long ago, I was doing this in the arena where I was at, and somebody else was riding their horse in the arena, and their horse had not been desensitized to this kind of a thing. And when I cracked that whip, their horse got a little bit excited. Fortunately, nothing bad happened. They didn't get hurt, didn't come off their horse, but the horse definitely got a little excited. And so as long as there was somebody else riding in there, I decided, you know what, maybe I better not do this, because I don't want to see anybody getting hurt. So anyhow, this is one of the things we were doing, and this is something you're going to do. And if you have to, you might have to start off at the opposite end of the round pen when you're doing this, so that the horse doesn't get too concerned. As you can see, we're standing here on a loose lead, and she's being very good about it. So it's not a big problem. But after we did that for a while, we moved on to the next step, because I thought, you know what, she's getting pretty good with that. And there's one other thing that I like to do, and I like to desensitize to the flag, and I'm going to explain to you that one, why we do it. I'll be back with you in just a second. Let me grab my flag. Now this is something that, interestingly enough, she is getting really good with this flag. It doesn't bother her. Just today, it was leaning up against the fence, blowing in the wind like it is right now, and she got curious about it and was actually sticking her nose on it, checking it out because it was moving. she thought that was kind of interesting, so she had to see what it was. Well, I didn't mind that. Even right now, she's kind of curious about the thing. You know, it's not a big deal. You know, she's a little wary of it though. Like if I was to, you know, swing it around too aggressively, I'm sure to get her concerned. But one of the things that you want to do is teach the horse the difference between when it means something and when it doesn't. And we use the flag for training purposes, so it needs to mean something, but at the same time we don't want the horse freaking out over it either, so we got to desensitize them to it a bit. And the other thing that, one of the reasons we do that, is that it's not just a flag, it's a flappy thing. And it could be your coat, a curtain hanging out of a window as you ride by it, or any kind of thing. You know, there's a lot of things that could be very similar to this flag that the horse needs to be desensitized to. Now, I've talked about this in another video, where I did a video on desensitizing and the importance of it. But, see, I don't want her getting all concerned with this thing. So, we're going to slowly introduce it to her, touch her with it, and it's like, well, guess what? It don't mean nothing. And, well, I don't know how this is going to work, but she's a little concerned about it, especially on the back end. But as you can see, I'm putting it on her back. Well, I'm going to do it a little bit more aggressively, slowly but surely. She's a little concerned, but you know, we're not going overboard on it. Now she's going to stop and sniff it. She wants to look at this weird thing. Yeah, that's okay. It ain't hurting you, is it? No. See? We just take her slow. Now there's what some guys will say, you got to do it with rhythm. You got to do a nice steady pace. I don't think that's all that important. There may be some benefit to that. I'm sure there probably is. There wouldn't be so many people doing it. But just doing it, period. And do it in a fashion that, you know, I'm not hitting her with the thing, but I'm going to throw it around so that, you know, I'm going to wave it aggressively enough that it's going to start making some noises, because that's one of the things about flags. They can make noise, and she's a little concerned about that. But it's not a horrible thing, and she's not, like, as you can see, there. She's getting better with it all the time. It's there. It's going back and forth over. And you'll notice I switched sides. I'm doing it from the other side now. I mentioned before, you got to do everything from both sides. And you might have to approach your horse a whole lot slower than this. She's exceptional. I've said this before. You know, don't use her as a guideline, you know, to judge your horse. You're going to probably have to do this a lot slower. And it might be a long time before you can ever get it near their face, whereas she'll actually stick her face on it out of curiosity, which is great. I love it when a horse does that. But the fact that she's not over concerned about it, I mean, she's got both ears back. She's paying attention to this thing, because she's slightly concerned about it, but it's not freaking her out. She's, you know, the head's not going flying in the air. She's not hopping around, but we're still doing this. And we're going to do this quite a few times, not just today, but we're going to do it quite a few times, quite a few days. In fact, you may never stop doing some of these things, you know, it's so that they just become a routine part of the day, and then the horse doesn't have a fit over stuff. So there's your thing for the day, another desensitizing thing. You know, weird stuff happening. She's going to get used to it. I can throw it back and forth over top of her, and that way, you know, if I happen to be talking to you and waving this thing around, she's not going to get all worried about it, because I haven't cued her to do anything yet. So the flag doesn't mean a darn thing. It's just kind of inconsequential. And you can see she's got a little interest in it. She's curious about it. That's great. I love it when they do that. But that's not where it ends. I noticed something else yesterday at the end of our session, long after the camera had been turned off, when I went to let her out. The way she went out the gate really told me a lot about how much we're stressing her and this experience in this area. And it's very telling. And I did another video on this a while back, and I talked about how your horse reacts to the round pen. Tells you a lot about what's going on in the round pen and if you're doing it right. And when she left the round pen, I just took the halter and lead off, opened the gate and let her out, and she just calmly walked out. She didn't freak out and bolt out like a horse that didn't want to be here. She wasn't in a big hurry to leave, and that was very, very telling. But on that note of going through a gate And this is something that I want to talk to you about too, is I had mentioned before about, you know, going through gates. That was in another video. And there are safe ways to do things. And I mentioned how I like to lead a horse behind, and 99% of the time it is the safest thing to be doing, but not when you go through a gate. And a lot of people also think that you need to lead the horse right beside you. You have to hang on to right under the chin like that to have control of it. I think that's a bunch of silliness. But there's lots of people that think that's the right way to lead a horse. And there's a lot of organizations that will insist that when you're there, that's how you have to do it. I don't agree with that, because being right beside the horse can be very dangerous, particularly when it comes to things like going through gates, doorways, you know, any smaller opening. If you're right beside the horse, you could easily get slammed into the door jamb or a gate post or whatever and get hurt, and it has happened. People have even had, you know, gotten broken hips that way, you know, that sort of thing. So I want to show you what I believe is the best way to go through a gate. Now I'm going to back up to something I showed you right in the beginning, is how you can send a horse. Now see, this is the thing where I didn't want to over desensitize her to this flag, because I still might need to use it. And apparently today's one of those days where she's not doing things as good as she used to. She has done this much better. There you go, dear. There we go. We're sending her. And this is what you want to do. You want to be able to send your horse. Very important. She doesn't do it super good, but this is a very important thing to be able to get your horse to do, is be able to just point it the direction you want it to go, and it goes. Now, what's that got to do with the gate? Well, let me just move the camera and I'm going to show you how this has to do with the gate, because it's got a lot to do with the gate and the safest way to go through a gate. Let me just turn the camera a little bit. Dang, that ice is slippery. Holy smokes, this is a bad day. Even the horse was having trouble. I watched her moving and she was slipping around on this. At least she's got 4 legs to stand on instead of just 2. Today's demonstration, I'm going to keep my flag handy because I might actually need it. But what you're looking at in front of here, this is the gate into the round pen. We're actually outside of the round pen now. I thought, why not? Doesn't matter whether we're inside or outside. Works the same. But going through that gate, now, like I said, I like leading a horse behind. And most of the time that is the best way to do it. But if she was to get nervous going through that gate, or any other horse, and I'm leading her behind and she decides to panic and jump through the gate, because some horses will do that, if you're in front of it, you might be in trouble. The horse could land on you. If you go through it together, this one's not too bad because it's fairly wide, but again, if the horse gets a little nervous and starts to jump side to side a bit, you can get hurt. So what's the safest way to go through a gate? Well, I figured the safest thing to do is send the horse ahead of you, and then you go through. And I'm going to do just that right now. And this is why teaching a horse to send is so important. Okay, sweetheart, you got to turn around and go through the gate now. Huh. There you go. There you go. Keep going. Atta girl. No. Keep going. Go through the gate. Good girl. There you go. There we go. It took a little doing because she hasn't done this before, but she's through the gate. Now I can enter in, and it's the safest thing to do. Now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to ask her to go back out the gate because, well, the safest thing to do is have her go ahead of me through the gate. So, well, for me anyhow. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're just going to ask her to move forward. If I have to employ the flag, I will. Very good. Excellent. See how that works? And this is a very, very unskilled horse. Now, this is not been there, done horse that, not like my own horse, which she's what I would refer to as a liberty horse. I don't even have to have a halter and lead on her to get her to do that. I can just point and say, in you go, or out you go, or whatever, and she'll go through the gate. This horse, untrained, or very limited training, But this is what one of the purposes of creating maneuverability in your horse, even at a very early age. Do we really need this stuff? No, we're not going to ride her or anything like that. But I just gave you a perfect example of how this training that actually took very little with her can be a huge safety issue. It can actually keep you from getting hurt going through a gate. And guaranteed at one point, you're going to have to get your horse through a gate, a doorway or whatever, something, into a horse trailer even, all kinds of things. And you don't want to be there. You don't want to be in a position where you can get hurt. Again, I'm going to run her back in again, just one more time here for you. See how well she does. In you go, dear. Good girl. In you go. Yeah, now back up a little. Back. No, 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 no. Now this is where I'm using my flag just to get her to back away from me, because I don't want her anywhere near me when I'm coming through the gate. She wants to go back through it again because she thinks that's the thing to do. Well, anyhow, that kind of concludes what I want to show you for today. We're going to work more with this and the lunge whip and a few other things, and just hang out with her in general. Probably not going to be for too terribly long though, because like I said, the weather isn't actually conducive to great conditions here. It's very slippery, not good footing for me or her. I don't want either one of us getting hurt. My camera equipment's getting wet, and my glasses are getting wet, and I'm having trouble seeing. And with a bit of a breeze that we got as well, as you've noticed with the flag blowing around, it's not real windy, but there's a bit of a breeze, and when it's super humid like this, even though it's not 30 below, it's not pleasant. It can be a little bit cool out. So anyhow, thanks for being with me, and join me again for the next one. Sorry we couldn't make it a little bit longer today, but yeah, it's just not a great day for it. But these are the things that you're going to have to deal with too. So in the meantime, you have yourself a great day, and you can go play with your horse. Bye now.